Hello everyone, my name is Alberto, welcome back to my channel. In the last video we finished threading the loom, or actually let's say warping, because that's the correct term. And it was quite a long process because of all the different colors, but I'm pretty happy with it. So what I'm gonna start doing is I have some salvage yarn. This is another yarn completely unrelated, this is cotton. And I'm passing it through, and this is because when we bundle all the threads together to tie them, we get some gaps, and this will help us get rid of them in order to start uh, in a cleaner, more even way. So I'm just gonna move the heddle in the up and down position while I pass this through, but I'm not gonna beat. Beating is when you pull the heddle towards you in order to actually weave. So just basically placing the thread, and this I'm gonna do it a deliberate amount of time. There's not a set amount, but it just helps to get an even border, let's say, in the fastest way possible. So I'm gonna do this about 4 or 5 times, even more if needed. And then when I'm sort of satisfied with it, I'm gonna finally beat. So we'll see hopefully how it works. So here we go. As you can see, it's pulling all the threads together, and there's still a couple small gaps. So in that case, you can do it maybe a couple more times, a couple more passes in the same way, and this helps, as I said, even everything out as much as possible. And this allows us to then move on to our actual yarn and start actual weaving. A small note on that, depending on what you're doing with your loom, you have different possibilities of finish. If you do something that's very clean and straight, usually the best way to finish is to do a hem stitch. And if you do that, what you want to do is use your salvage yarn in order to achieve a complete uniform piece. However, if, like in my case, you're just gonna tie the ends together, you will still get some small gaps because it's normal that the threads are just gonna move around a little bit. So you can stop a little earlier. So that's just up to you. So I moved on to actual yarn weaving, and what I'm doing is I'm just repeating the pattern that I did in the warp. So all the stripes I did vertically, basically I'm doing horizontally, and in the beginning I'm sort of eyeballing in order to see if I am getting the same width and height of every square where they go and meet with each color. But after a while, then you can gather a specific amount and then just count, basically. You can do a sample first if you want, and then from then on you can mathematically plan every single move. But in my case, I just prefer to sort of eyeball it because, again, it's sort of me experimenting. So I just wanted to see how it looked. So in this case, I started with the taupey gray color, and then I went into the light gray and then the black, and this created this sort of tartany look. So this is the process that you will keep repeating every single time. Here I did quite a lot. Small note, I did keep the little stripe in the center. That was just to break up the pattern because it's such a wide scarf. So it sort of gives a point of interest. In this case, I'm showing you how I do the little black stripe. I put all the threads on two different shuttles in order to not change every single time. What happens when you add a new thread, and this would happen even with the same color in case you just ran out, but in my case I'm changing. So I'm just gonna pass through my new thread, and I'm gonna keep sort of a longish tail on the side. And then after I beat and I move to the different position, in this case was up because I was down when I finish it, then I put the little tail. In my case, I decided to go into the same color. You don't need it. You could just go in like 4 or 5 threads, but I decided to finish in every single matching color because I think when it gets to finishing and then you cut the excess thread, it just looks better. It hides better overall. But yeah, that's it. It's very simple. It's just something you have to remember to do, obviously, every single time you change color or run out of color. Because if you leave the tail hanging out, then it might slip or move when then you go to wet finish the piece or even wearing it, and it might unravel a little bit. So yeah, the rest is just weaving for a long time. This I did in my free time in the evenings, so it took about a week. It's not long or complicated by any means because it's just a plain tabby weave, but with all the color changes, it did take a little bit of time. So when you reach the end of your project and you don't have any more space to weave, or in my case, a bit earlier because I wanted to keep an extra long fringe, you can just go and cut all the ends. As I said before, in this case I didn't do any hem stitch because what I decided to do is then pull out 4 strands on every side and triple knot them together in order to get, as I said, this long fringe. And this is a very, very easy process. You can, if you want, after securing everything with knots, then you can braid them, you can do twist fringe. There's, again, a lot more options you have in order to get a different look. But in my case, I just like the sort of thin fringe all over. And once that's done, the most fun part comes, which is when we unlock the loom and pull out our piece. And then we get to the end, and since I tied the ends, I'm just gonna untie each and every one of them. I'm gonna remove my salvage yarn that I added in the beginning. And then, as I did in the end, I'm just gonna tie every single end here as well. And that's just the easiest finish you can have without any stitching. So once that's done, we have to wet finish our piece. I have some warm water here. It's not hot, it's not cold, it's just warm, with wool soap because this is a merino. And I'm just gonna submerge my folded piece without moving it around too much. I'm not agitating, I'm not pressing it. I'm just submerging it in water, and I'm gonna leave it there for 1 hour. After that has passed, I'm just gonna hang it to dry flat or sort of draped around. Once all of that is done, now we can finally finish. So on the front, as you can see, it's all nice and even, but on the back we have all our color changes. So these we're all gonna cut flush with the fabric, and it's gonna be basically invisible. If you have some unevenness like I had in the beginning, because it's a new yarn that I never tried and the color changes again I didn't do before, you can fix a little bit of it with some steam, but it's not gonna go away completely. Laid out my fringe and sort of combed it to get most of the tangles or curliness out. I'm using heddles just as a guide, but I'm just gonna cut all the extra fringe from the warp because it was a bit uneven. And then once that's done, I'm gonna clean it up if there's extra wispiness, and yeah, that's it. So I hope you liked it. If you want to see other weaving videos, let me know. I'm happy to do more because I'm really liking it. Thank you for watching. If you are already subscribed, put a like on the video. If you're not, please subscribe. It's a really great help for me. And I'll see you next time. So have a great day. Bye.